What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Today I want to talk about the canceled Pan-African Conference in Ghana. Everybody's pissed off, everybody's upset, and everybody's confused on why you would cut off such an important event at the last moment, especially when you have the most powerful Pan-Africans in the world in attendance, right? It's confusing and people don't understand, especially coming from Ghana, who seems to be heading the Pan-African movement at this point, right? Now, what I've gathered so far is that the government of Ghana, right? The government of Ghana had suspicions on a particular group of people who were participating in the organization of this conference, and they came to find out that the accounts of these people are not quite up to snuff, meaning they don't quite know who these people are. And so because of that, they didn't want to push the conference, because think about it. I mean, the thing about it is, these were heavy hitters coming from. These were heavy hitter Pan-Africans coming to speak at this conference, and it would have been a very powerful look to have all these great, powerful Pan-African leaders in the same place speaking in Ghana. It would have sent a massive message to the people of Ghana, to the people of Africa, to the diaspora, right? Because believe it or not, Pan-Africanism is the only ideological organization that's physically doing, that's actively trying to uplift African people. That under Pan-Africanism, there are many organizations with different names, but under the guise of Pan-Africanism. See, people don't even know what Pan-Africanism is. They think it's one group. Pan-Africanism is this ideological framework of thinking that many groups fall under, right? So what we have here is, but in between that, there are going to be groups that use Pan-Africanism to push their own agendas. Just like we got fake Pan-Africans, we have individual fake Pan-Africans that we all know. Right? We see them, right? I don't already threw a bunch of rocks at them, who use Pan-Africanism to push an agenda. So there's snakes in the grass. So just like we got individual fake Pan-Africans for pay, Pan-African capitalists, right? All these guys are using the vehicle of Pan-Africanism to push their own agendas that does not actually benefit black people. There are organizations that's using Pan-Africanism to try to get in there. Because the thing is, Pan-Africanism cannot be stopped. Pan-Africanism is African people standing up finally and taking agency over themselves. You can't be stopped. It's impossible to stop it. So the Europeans know they can't stop it. So what do? If you can't fight them, you got to join them. Europeans are trying to find a way to infiltrate Pan-Africanism. Most of them would be liberals and progressives. I'm going to be honest. And I'm a progressive, right? I believe in progressive policies, but progressive policies towards African people, right? Even though I want all humans to, prosper and stuff, but I'm focused on African people, right? There's going to be liberals and progressives who see the tea leaves, right? They see the writing on the wall. So they're going to try to join and connect and finance institutions that look like Pan-Africans, right? They look like Pan-African organizations, and they will be getting funding from dubious sources, right? So that they can fund their operations within the Pan-African movement. It's something that we cannot avoid. Every movement has always had infiltrators that use the same sentiment to disguise themselves. They camouflage themselves. But once they get into positions, or they get their people in positions, that's when they make their moves, right? To do whatever it is that their actual plan is to do. So I guess Ghana knew that by canceling this, it was going to be a bad look. But would you rather have a canceled event that could always be rescheduled, right, at a later date, or would you rather have an event that was going to use the most powerful Pan-Africans, right, that would maybe, possibly, unbeknownst to them, will have elevated a person that's not a Pan-African, that's a snake in the grass, that would have been elevated just because of the association with those powerful Pan-Africans, and would have been put in position to do and disenfranchise Pan-Africanism, or to push a different agenda. Because the conservative Africans have always been against Pan-Africanism. If you look at history, the conservative Africans want to maintain the status quo of the African countries, because conservative Africans throughout history, and this is not my opinion, this is actual historical fact that can be looked up by anybody who actually bothered to actually look instead of just guessing. Conservative Africans have always wanted to maintain the status quo of Africa because the status quo lines their individual pockets. You understand? Because what Pan-Africanism is going to do is going to fundamentally change the way we are as a society. This is not just a feel-good movement. Pan-Africanism is in Africa, it's a political movement, right? It's an ideological movement, but it's turning into a political movement, right? Like the EFF is basically a Pan-African political party. The EFF is a Pan-African political party, and if you ain't been paying attention, South Africa is one of the an African country that's actively fighting against one of the most heinous groups of Europeans on the planet. And so South Africa has the balls, all right, despite the political differences between the different parties that's fighting there in-house in South Africa. They, as a group, as a country, as a group of people, Africans are finally stepping up on the world stage and saying, you know what, Israel, you're committing genocide. And we're going to take this to court. When have you seen an African country ever stand up to white countries? Lately, you've been seeing African countries and their leaders grow big, huge titanium balls, right? And now they're starting to say, you know what, you Europeans? Not today. No, we're going to hold you accountable. The same way Europeans will look at any African, country, like if they was mommy and daddy and point down on us and try to judge us, say, you're committing genocide, and they take our leaders and send them to some far-off place in Europe to put them in jail. They have a whole court in Europe where they persecute or they judge African leaders for what they do, right? While the European countries, commit 10 times worse genocide and criminality across the world, and they don't hold themselves accountable. Because white people believe that white is right and everybody else is secondary. So we finally got African countries that's stepping up and realizing they actually are the big dogs in the room. That they're actually the great mighty elephant on the savannah. That they're the big dog, they're the big lions, right, in the savannah, right? Like I said, when the giant wakes up, that's it. Africa's waking up. So since Africa's waking up, and now we're starting to develop political leaders, right? Like we had back in the 60s, like we had back in the 50s, right? We're starting to develop political leaders that has enough clout, enough power, enough charisma to galvanize the African people. Capitalistic countries, European countries, and Arab countries are definitely afraid of Pan-Africanism because Pan-Africanism is taking hold in a way that can't be stopped. Africans have the numbers, we got the resources, we got the power. Our military capability is getting to the point where ain't nobody really gonna be able to F with us besides America. But I'm just gonna keep it real. We're getting to the point where ain't nobody really gonna be able to F with us besides America, right? Because the European countries, they too weak, right? Even though they got some good tech, they still too weak. They ain't got it, right? So outside of a global nuclear strike on all of Africa, they not effing with us for real. Them days is over, right? They had their moment. Our moment is coming. So what you see is every political faction that's gonna be affected by the rise of Pan-Africanism, they're making it their goal and their mission to disrupt, slow down, distort, or stop Pan-Africanism. Why do you think all of a sudden we got all these African Americans that want to disassociate from the word African, and now they want to call themselves Black American or FBA or ADOS or pretenders? All of a sudden there's a fever pitch of a segment of African Americans that's actively campaigning to decouple themselves from Africa. All of a sudden, you're talking about African people, the ones who gatekeep African culture, the ones who know more about African culture than even most of the African people, because we have access to the information now, and they have it, but we had it sooner, so we have it. Plus, they stole us along with all the shit that they stole, so we've been with our African shit over here, right? Okay, they took us and our shit, right? So all of a sudden you see all these little groups, and this is how it happens, right? What happens is the West will go into a country and they will find an opposition and they will fund that opposition, right? They will fund that opposition. They will give them everything they need to go against the government or go against a power that they perceive as a threat, right? Because Pan-Africanism is a threat to capitalism. Pan-Africanism is a threat to European power. Pan-Africanism is a threat to Arab power. Because first of all, the Arabs, They have pan-Arabism, right? But they don't have the numbers. They don't got the resources. I mean, other than a few countries they got, they ain't got nothing. So Pan-Africanism will be like, guess what? North Africa will become black again. Trust and believe. Pan-Africanism is going to make North Africa become black. Pan-Africanism is going to make those Northern Africans that deny their African heritage all of a sudden want, clamor, and advocate for their identity as Africans to be accepted. Pan-Africanism, once it takes hold, is going to make the whole diaspora be proud to be African. They're not going to self-loathe themselves. They're not gonna belittle themselves like they do. They're not gonna worship whiteness. They're not gonna worship none of that shit. Pan-Africanism is gonna create billions and billions of proud, empowered, franchised Africans. And that is very dangerous for Arabs and Europeans. It's not dangerous for Asians because they don't have any opposition to us. Asians are cool. They're like, hey, you know what I'm saying? We can work with them. They can work with us. Be Pan-African. We Asian. Blasian. They don't care. They're cool with it. So they don't really have, matter of fact, Pan-Africanism actually benefits Asia. It does. It really does, right? But it doesn't benefit the Arabs because we ain't never forgot. We still got to deal with them Arabs, right? To a certain extent. Certain Arabs. Because right now you see us supporting the Palestinians, right? There are Afro-Palestinians. I keep telling us Afro-Palestinians there too. So, we are somewhat involved in the situation, right? But certain Arabs are going to start recognizing they ain't nothing but a bunch of mulattoes. Arabs, they're going to be a bunch of Gaddafis, all right? Arabs who say they black. Because they know, they do their DNA is going to say, most of their shit going to say they African. They mixed. Arabs ain't nothing but mixed. And the real Arabs are black, all right? I seen them myself with my own eyes. Them dude dark, right? So, yeah, I would not be... Yeah, it's disappointing that this conference didn't happen. But guess what? Another one's going to happen. Because the great thing about Pan-Africanism is it's relentless. It's relentless. All those powerful leaders, they're gonna get together. They're gonna get together. They're gonna do it again. I wouldn't doubt that Ghana, the government of Ghana, they're probably gonna plan another one, right? And it's gonna be proper, and hopefully the people that's participating are real Pan-African organizations, and that it can go on without a hitch. Keep in mind, if you want to know if Pan-African is working, look at all the heat it's getting. All these videos, Pan-Africanism is dead. That's wishful thinking from xenophobic people. Pan-Africanism is dead. The only reason you would say Pan-Africanism is dead is if you're looking at it and it's alive. The only way you would make a video talking shit about Pan-Africanism is if you're afraid of Pan-Africanism. Or there's something about Pan-Africanism that triggers you. I seen this one black dude made a 3-hour video about Pan-Africanism. He was mad. He had all this. I'm like, dude, ain't nobody even tripping. Pan-Africanism doesn't care about the black folks that don't want to participate. That's the thing about it. If you're not a Pan-African, that's okay. Go sit in the stands and be quiet. Go mind your own business. Because Pan-Africans, we recognize what unity looks like. We recognize how powerful unity is, right? We recognize once Pan-Africanism wins, that's the final game. That's the end of the war. We would have effectively won. Because the next time the next time we win, that's it. That's the end of the game. No, there will be no time in history, in the future. Once Africans unite, no group will ever be able to disenfranchise us ever again for the remainder of the existence of the human race. This is the last battle that we're fighting right now. And Pan-Africanism is the vehicle in which that's going to happen, right? It just requires us to wake up. It requires us to liberate our minds because we are all in positions to take control. We're just mentally not there. And that's what Pan-Africanism is doing. It's telling people, hey, we understand you've been going through this and that, but all we got to do is wake up and make one decision. All of us collectively, we need to wake up and decide that we're not going to take it anymore. And that's all it's going to take. And then we take the action to make sure that happens. But we have the intelligence, we have the power, we have the resources. Pan-Africanism is creating new countries in Africa right now. Pan-Africanism is taking back the resources from Europe. Now you see all these African Francophone countries, right, who are very Pan-African right now. You see all these Francophone countries, they're keeping their raw material. They're not allowing Europeans to exploit Africa like they used to. Now this takes a while because each country has their own governments, right? In each government, you have your own actors, and you have your own traitors. You have your own people who actually don't care about their country. So that means the real Pan-Africans and pro-black African people have to fight against the other forces that's within their government that also has the ability to legislate their agenda, right? So it's very complicated, very time-consuming, very energy-intensive work, right? It is, right? But Pan-Africanism is slowly but surely rising despite all the pressure on its back. And this is just another example of it happening. And I have to say, maybe possibly this might have been this cancellation of this, even though people are upset about it, right? If you saw the passion of those Ghanaians when they was upset that the Pan-African Conference was canceled, if you saw it, if you saw that passion, it would shock you, because you got African Americans who don't believe that there's any Pan-Africans in Africa, that Africans are not hip to Pan-Africanism, that African people don't care about Pan-Africanism. You got Africans that believe that. Let you see a video of a bunch of angry Ghanaians mad because they couldn't go to a place to see these continental Africans talk about liberation and give them the game plan. Right? So that's why us Pan-Africans, don't be deterred. Don't be deterred. Understand things like this gonna happen. Things like this is always gonna happen. But it lets you know that we're being taken seriously. Because if Pan-Africanism wasn't dangerous, if it wasn't an existential threat to white superiority, Arab superiority, then this conference would have went on without a hitch. No problem. Would have been no problem. Okay? So I want you guys to, calm down, relax. It's gonna be all right. All right? But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Pan-African Conference. There'll be another one. And them Pan-African leaders, they're gonna be speaking. You can't stop them from talking. We got the internet now. So whatever speech they was gonna say, I'm pretty sure they're gonna say it on their own platform. Anyway, that's all I gotta say about this. This is Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.